Now, if any of you were at the British Shooting Show back in February and taking a dander down the airgun range, you might well have already seen some of these pellets, if not already fired some, as they have been used at the Armex booth, who are the UK distributors for Umarex. Now, I know I had quite a bit of fun shooting quite a lot of these through a Walther LGV that they had sitting, fitted with quite a sizable black suppressor on it. But before I left the booth, I was asked if I'd like to test some. Of course I said yes, and this is what they sent me out. Now, the pellets all come in these little red plastic boxes, which I have seen other manufacturers use and I much rather prefer than the usual styled pellet tins, as they've got a good solid closure system, so they're not likely to pop open inside your game bag. And the pellets all come sealed in a plastic bag. Now, there's no additional padding in the box, but I don't think these are going to damage too much the way they're packaged. Now, for the test I'm using 3 rifles. The top rifle is a 15 foot-pound .22 caliber BSA Superten. In the centre we have a 30 plus foot-pound .22 Theoben MFR, and at the bottom we have my HW97 in 177 caliber running at about 12 foot-pounds, which I've recently put a tuning kit in. Now, before I started, I took each rifle and cleaned the bore, just to maximise the accuracy as best as possible. Then I took each rifle and zeroed it for the pellet I was using. This was really to make it easier for me to keep everything on the centre of the scorecard and film it. You'll also notice I'm using a bench here, and I'm shooting off of a beanbag with a piece of 1-inch foam to cushion the rifle, again to maximise accuracy as best as possible. Once zeroed, I set out my official scorecard, and the first up is the Armex Airstream 55S high efficiency airgun pellet. Quite a long name really, but this is a 15 grain round head or dome headed pellet, and it's got fairly straight sides compared to the usual shuttlecock shaped pellets you get. There's roughly 400 of them in the box, and I'm testing this through my 15 foot-pound .22 caliber BSA Superten. All testing was done at approximately 30 yards off the bench, and you can see by the screen I've got 3 cameras running at the same time, which was a bit of a pain making sure everything was recording. But we have got one of the target, one on a corner graph, and one showing my ugly mug shooting. So after 5 shots we've got a fairly impressive grip of 13mm centre to centre, with a roughly average speed of 660 feet per second, which works out in my gun at about 14.5 foot-pounds of energy. Next up for the Armex Airstream pellets is the 21 grain, which follows the same design as the 15 grain, except of course that they're a longer pellet and therefore heavier, so they should be well suited to FAC air rifles. Again, they're a round or dome headed pellet, and they do fit in both my MFR, the Theoben, and my BSA Superten magazines. I have to apologise for the messy background, but who on earth keeps a tidy garage anyway? There's a bit of an intermittent left to right breeze blowing today, but so far the grip's looking good. I was spoke too soon. So after 5 shots we've got an approximate grip of 22mm centre to centre and an average speed of 890 feet per second, which works out in my Theoben at 36.9 foot-pounds of energy. Not as good as what the 15 grain can do, but then my Theoben is notoriously pellet fussy. Next up is the C-Max, Now these are a 177 caliber pellet designed for CO2 powered air guns. Now I don't have a CO2 powered air gun, but I thought I'd try them in my 177 caliber HW97 spring gun. They're quite a long pellet for 6.9 grains, but they're made of a non-toxic material, so no lead. And they have a sort of semi-hollow point head on them, so it'd be interesting to see how they fly. Well, that's the first pellet away, but I'm going to speed this up here, otherwise we'll be sitting all night. Now, I wasn't happy with that fourth shot landing so low and to the left there, so to give it the benefit of the doubt that I pulled it, I fired a sixth shot which just clipped the bull. So, excluding the shot I pulled there, we're working out at approximately 37mm centre to centre and an average speed of 910 feet per second, which works out in my gun at 12.6 foot-pounds of energy. I don't think these pellets are really designed for long range accuracy, not with that hollow point pellet, but they might be handy for feral pigeons or rats at closer ranges. One thing I did notice about the C-Max pellets when I went forward to lift my target card was that the pellets that hit the steel backplate there hardly deformed at all, just roughly flattening the end of the head, compared to the other lead pellets that were totally splatting up against the steel backstop. So whatever they're made from, it must be fairly hard. Next up is the Armex Airstream 45S high efficiency air gun pellet. Still a long name. Now these are a 177 8.5 grain, and to look at them they just look like a miniaturized version of the 15 grain .22 caliber pellet. Lovely little round or dome headed pellet. So we'll see how these do in my HW97. Oh, slight error with the chronograph there. Mustn't have the rifle totally centered over the top of it. But that's the first pellet away, and we'll speed things up from now on, the same as I done with the previous test. So after 5 shots we've got an approximate grip of 23.5mm centre to centre, so still just under the inch, an average speed of 829 feet per second, which works out in my gun at about 12.9 foot-pounds of energy. It would have been nice to try these in a PCP powered air rifle to see if they suited it better, as the 15 grain .22 pellets did the BSA. Next I made up a quick change of target, and we're going to do a wee bit of a switcheroo, as I wanted to try the lighter 15 grain pellets in my 30 foot-pound Theoben MFR to see how they performed. So with our 5 shots we've got an approximate grip of 27mm centre to centre, an average speed of about 913 feet per second, which works out in my rifle at about 27.7 foot-pounds of energy. So not as good as the 21 grain pellets, but I've never really found a lightweight pellet that does well in my Theoben at that sort of power, but I thought I'd have a go anyway. So the next up is the BSA Superten at 15 foot-pounds of energy using the 21 grain pellets. You can notice already the far lower speed at 555 feet per second with the heavier 21 grains compared to the 15 grain pellets earlier. So after our 5 shots we've got an approximate grip of 17mm centre to centre. We have a much lower average speed of 564 feet per second, which works out in my rifle at about 14.8 foot-pounds of energy. Not just as tight as the 15 grainers, but not far away from it, and definitely worth looking at if you're wanting to do some close range vermin control like on rats or feral pigeons inside barns. We are not really worried about a far lumpier trajectory of the heavier pellet, but you're looking plenty of stopping power. Well, it's been a long day testing, and overall the pellets do seem to be well packaged and well made, even though some of them just didn't suit the rifles I was using them in at the time, but isn't that always the way of it? But definitely the star of the show has to be the .22 15 grains out of my BSA Superten. So I must try and get some hunting footage of them to see how they work in live quarry.